Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Mouthing Off with Mike, the only wrestling podcast that knows who really runs the world. And ladies and gentlemen, that's girls. Shout out to Queen Bee, man. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what this episode we're gonna get into a little bit more in depth about some of the women's storylines coming out of WWE and AEW, as well as some free agent signing news here, ladies and gentlemen. We are back on Mouthing Off with Mike. Now, you've seen me just about everywhere and anywhere that you could see me. You got me on Boom Broadcasting. You got me nightly, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and those premium live event and pay-per-view Sundays. You got me immediately following them within 5 to 15 minutes with the Nightcap, Boom Broadcasting's nightly wrestling recap show. And you'll be able to catch me tomorrow after Monday Night Raw, when the action and the dust has settled. You'll find me on Boom Broadcasting for the Monday Night Raw Nightcap. Well, that's enough talking. That's enough introing. Let's get into the women's wrestling action from this past week in WWE and AEW. We'll start things off with Monday Night Raw from last Monday. Ladies and gentlemen, she went away. She had to relinquish the Women's World Heavyweight Championship, but she is back. Mommy is home, and Dirty Dom did not take out the chicken for dinner tonight because he's caught red-handed, or should I say, something else might have been a little excited here. He's in the middle of the ring after he finally gets a win over his quote-unquote, his words, not mine, deadbeat father, Rey Mysterio. He's in the middle of the ring. We're about to get a little sequel to Edge and Lita's live sex celebration with Dirty Dom Mysterio and Liv Morgan, current Women's World Champion. But can't, none of that. Mommy's here. Mommy is not happy. The look on Liv and Dom's face was priceless, folks. Was absolutely priceless. I cannot wait to see what's going to come of this storyline. One of the best storylines going right now in WWE. Let's be real here. Listen, women's wrestling, carrying. Certainly carrying NXT weekly, but women's wrestling absolutely carrying wrestling right now in 2024. And that is something that, you would have told me 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. Maybe I was a little kid watching, bra and panty matches and Jerry the King calling them puppies. Look at the puppies, I would have never guessed this. And it's so happy, man. I'm so happy for them because there's no reason why women and men's wrestling is not looked at the same level, and I'm so happy it is, right now, because it is on fire. Really hope it continues because, that means the industry is thriving. You know what I mean? Like, this is so good for all women across all different companies. We're talking Stardom, we're talking Marigold, we're talking out there in Japan, those, lesser known, obscure women's wrestling, the Joshi scene. I'm talking AEW, I'm talking WWE, TNA, they're firing on all cylinders. CMLL, they had some controversy. We'll get into it in a few minutes. But man, women's wrestling on fire. That's why, the whole intro, ladies and gentlemen, you gotta tap into the Queen Beyonce reference, because why the hell not? We like to have fun here. I like to have fun. I dislike a certain kind of fan that takes wrestling too seriously. You know what I mean? Like, they just complain about everything. Now, listen, I've complained my fair share on Mouthing Off with Mike. I'm a hypocrite. Fine. So be it. But it's not, like, to the level of, like, pitchforks, doom and gloom, wishing death upon the wrestlers or their families or calling them names. It's weird, and I think Wrestling should be fun because wrestling is fun, and all of these wrestlers are having fun. That's my little sidebar for the folks that are still watching and or listening at this point. Click rate not doing great. I'm gonna always make jokes, man. Like I said, I'm not a YouTuber. I'll tell you that right now. I'm not a YouTuber. I'm not a podcaster. I'm not a journalist. I'm not a content creator. I'm just a dude that loves wrestling, that may not have had enough friends who love wrestling as much as he did. So he went out there and he said, you know what? Fuck it. I can talk. Why not? Let's talk about it. And that's what I did. So here we are. And I've made amazing connections with some of the greatest, some minds that, you know, it's a damn shame how underrated they are, that they deserve love. And I'm always going to show them love. But man, just people take wrestling too seriously. You know, we've seen it this week, right? Before I kind of shift focus, you know, we gotta present it, right? You heard me say it earlier, right? CMLL. And CMLL's, you know, big name right now, right? All the talk of the town, right? Is Stephanie Vacour. So Stephanie, she was at one point, you know, triple champ, right? She has this match against Mercedes Monae, the CEO. Forbidden Door, AEW, you know, everyone loves her. Crowd loves her. Crowd's going crazy. You know, and then, you know, you're to think like, oh, Tony Khan, you know, he's big with signing the free agents and listening to the crowd. And you're like, oh, Tony Khan's going to lock this up. You know what I mean? And next thing you know, she's canceling dates and this and that happens. And you're like, whoa, what's going on? You know, she drops all her titles and suddenly she's gone from CMML. And you're like, whoa, Tony Khan wouldn't do that. You know, that's not a Tony Khan move. That's a WWE move. And then the news breaks. You're like, oh, I gotta, until they announce it. See, I'm a big guy on it. Until they announce it, right? Until WWE, AEW, you know, TNA, New Japan announce the signing, I'm not gonna be like, oh, they're going there, WWE, right? And then they announce it. Shawn Michaels announces it, you know, and then everything breaks and the floodgates open and people are complaining about how she did it and this and that. And I couldn't really get too into detail on it in the nightcap this week because, you know, I typically with the nightcap, now we'll give you a little insight here. I try to keep it with what we just saw, right? If there's major breaking news coming out of the world of pro wrestling, then obviously I have to talk about it, right? That's the talking point right now. So I got to do it because my views and my opinions on things far differ from a lot of people, right? Now, I know, you know, we may have similar viewpoints and thought processes on things, but for the most part, I say I'm a little bit more kind of outside looking in. Like everybody kind of, in my opinion, and right? And that's what this is. This is Mouthing Off with Mike. This is my show. This is my opinions, my thoughts, my beliefs, right? So I differ in a lot of things, right? So I'm a kind of guy who is like, look, if they're paying me the big bucks and this company, you know, it hasn't, you know, maybe done the things for me, maybe it's time to get a change of scenery. I'm not going to wait till, you know, I'm dropped or I'm fired from X company. You know, I'm gonna make sure that I got my contingency plans in place, and clearly she had her plans in place. You know, she tried out for WWE in 2018. I don't think she was signed at the time. She went out, she made a name for herself, she became a big deal, and WWE said, you know what, hey, come on over. Like, we see what you're doing. We like what we see. Let's get into it. And the rest is history. And she actually just wrestled this past weekend in Mexico, in that very same arena. So, and she had a match against Isla Dawn. Crowd loved it. Everyone went home happy. What a moment. She looks like $1 million. Big signing. NXT this Tuesday. I wouldn't be surprised if she's on NXT this week. At least in the crowd. Julia, we know, wrapped up her Marigold commitments, it seems, quote unquote. You know, we saw that happen this weekend. Io Sky went over there, had a match against a former wrestler who was NXT, who they just horribly fumbled the bag. Her name's escaping me right now. So, you know, Julia, you know, you got Stephanie Vacour, I'm not familiar with her. There's an Australian wrestler, Delta. I've seen some clips of her, floating around social media. I'm going to familiarize myself. I try my hardest. It's so hard to keep up, right? Look, if you're anything like me, right? You're working, you're watching wrestling, you're taking care of, maybe your families, maybe taking care of the chores, taking care of the business around the house, taking care of business every day. You know what I'm talking about? Get a little bit of that in your earways for you. I don't know if you guys have noticed a little bit of a scramble episode here today, just a sidebar after a sidebar. We'll get back to the main conversation. How many song references I drop on the nightcap and mouthing off? I'm a big music guy, man. I'll listen to just about anything. I mean, even a little country. Not country ain't my thing. I'm not a country boy. No way, no how. But I could tap my foot to something here and there. You know what I mean? I'll listen to just about anything. But yeah, man, I saw a lot of bad faith takes. Saw a lot of engagement. That's kind of what social media is, the IWC and everything. But I'm excited personally, and I definitely will familiarize myself with this Australian sensation Delta. Definitely gonna have to look into her. But man, women's wrestling really is fantastic right now. NXT has a flourishing women's division, right? I just talked about Julia's going to be coming in. Stephanie Vekor is going to be coming in. You already have the names of who's currently out on injury, right? I'll try to name kind of off the top of my head here, and you guys can see how good I am here. You got Gigi Dolan, you got Cora Jade, right? You got Nikita Lyons. You've got returning Wendy Chu. You've got Izzy Dame. You've got Jasmine Nix. You've got JC Jane. You've got Carmen Petrovic. You've got Ariana Grace. You've got Roxanne Perez. You've got Lola Vice. Kalani Jordan. Sol Ruka. Okay? That's in the pipeline. That's coming up in the next 2 to 5. And then, of course, there's more. You got Carly Bright, another newcomer into NXT, right? You have Lash legend, Jakara Jackson. How could I forget about Miss Jackson and the Bougie Bully? Two of my favorites in NXT. But it's just the sentiment, right? There's so many women in NXT, and NXT really is carried by the women, and a massive applause, right, to them. They're nailing it. You've got women that are gymnasts. You've got women softball players. You've got former basketball players. All different backgrounds and athletic backgrounds. That are just getting this, and they're getting it like that. Like, that's impressive. I don't think that does not get talked about enough, right? It does not get talked about enough, the fact that Tiffany Stratton, a gymnast, comes into the Performance Center a little over 2 years ago, doesn't have a lick of wrestling experience, learns in the Performance Center, and now is on the main roster as the youngest Miss Money in the Bank. That's incredible. That Performance Center is incredible. And the women's wrestling is fantastic. They're getting, like, Sol Ruka, another prime example. Kalani Jordan, Izzy Dame, Kiana James. She got called up, but Kiana James, they're getting it so quick. They're learning as they go, and they're like sponges. They're absorbing it all, and they're taking it, and they're doing good things. That's why I always say, like, do not miss NXT. Like, I know it is hard to sit there and per week. Listen, I get wrestling exhaustion too. I'm right there with you. Like, even when I was just a fan, even more so now as, like, whatever you want to give me a title for, podcaster, content creator, YouTuber, whatever I am, dude who likes wrestling. Even more so now, I get a little wrestling exhausted. I'm like, I just want to sit there and relax, or I just want to, play some video games. And I do. And that's the best part, folks. If wrestling, you get a little exhausted with it, sometimes you can just step away, do some other of your likes, your hobbies, watch some baseball, watch some football's coming up, college football. We got college football, the video game coming out for the first time in 10 years, which looks, chef's kiss. You already know it was pre-ordered, downloaded already, ready to go. Damn shame I couldn't play it. Why are we not releasing games on the weekends? Game developers? Like, I'm a grown-ass adult, bro. I got a job. You know, I can't stay up till midnight on a Monday night to play a video game. You know, I got to be up. I got money to make. Drop that shit on the weekend, please. You know, like, come on. For real. But sometimes, you know, you get a little wrestling exhausted. But when I watch NXT, man, I do not feel that. I am, like, entertained. And it has everything for everyone. You know, it has comedy. It has serious. You know, sometimes it has murders. You know, it has fantastic women's wrestling. It has fantastic men's wrestling, tag team wrestling across the board. You know, they've got the Heritage Cup, which is a fun concept, and I really enjoy it. So NXT really, when it comes to the women and just kind of keeping me interested, it does it every week, man. I'll tell you what, because that's like my escape. Like people watch NXT, but not as many as people like Raw or Dynamite, you know, and SmackDown. So like I don't hear as much nonsense, and I can just enjoy my thing. You know what I mean? But we got to get into it, folks. I want to keep this one short, sweet. I've talked a lot about wrestling this past week. I don't want to be rehashing my thoughts. So I figured let's talk women's wrestling, right? And one of the greatest endings, you heard me say it on the nightcap, one of the greatest endings of an AEW Dynamite ever took place last Wednesday. That was when Mariah May defeated Willow Nightingale in the Owen Hart Women's Foundation Cup final. Mariah May now gets a championship opportunity against her protege, her leading lady, Toni Storm, at Wembley. And they're celebrating. They're skipping down the ramp. It's beautiful. It's rainbows and butterflies and cupcakes, and it's so beautiful. They're so happy for one another. And then Mariah May beats the living shit out of Toni Storm. Listen, she took that Owen Hart belt and whipped her with it. Do you know how thick that belt strap is? Like, okay, if you have a replica belt, I want you to take it, go like that one time to your back. She did that consecutively, just whipping her with that belt, just boom, over. And then she kicked Luther in the balls, hit him with the Owen Hart belt. She grabbed the shoe and just started bashing her head, and Toni Storm is bleeding. She's in color. She's got color, you know, which I thought very clever. Saw that joke a few times. What an ending. What a shocking ending. See, me personally, I felt that it was going to be the leading lady, right? You know, Toni's doing the whole actress, you know, the larger-than-life actress, you know, gimmick, right? The 1920s, you know, actress. And she's nailing it, right? You know, chin up, tits out, watch for the shoe. Unfortunately, Toni Storm did not watch for the shoe. She got the shoe right there, man, just leaking to end Dynamite this past week. We have Dynamite 250 coming up this week, which is going to be wild. But, man, what a moment. But I really thought it was going to be Toni turning on Mariah because the leading lady was jealous of her understudy, right? She called her that. That she was getting all the limelight, right? And, you know, that happens in Hollywood, I'm sure, you know, in theater, right? Theater, and speaking of theater, my lovely, my theater-loving girlfriend, Mrs. MOWM, Mrs. Mallingoff Mike, she told me from day one. I forgot when it happened. You'd have to go back and check the promo, but Toni Storm is with Mariah backstage, and they're cutting the promo, and Toni finally calls her the understudy. She's like, my understudy, Mariah May. And my girlfriend goes, uh-oh. And I'm like, what? And she goes, oh, Mariah's going to destroy her. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, yeah, like, it's like, you know, they're doing like the theater thing where where the understudy is jealous of the leading lady and takes her out to inevitably become the leading lady. And I was like, damn, you want a wrestling podcast too? You want to get on the guest list? Like, let's get it. But she nailed it, right? You know, and I'm sure other people have said it too. But what an ending, guys! What an ending to Dynamite. Just an incredible women's wrestling on Dynamite. Just elevated so much recently. You know, signing of Mercedes Monae. Certainly is going to do that, right? She left a place where she wasn't getting the respect as a women's wrestler. You know, the old regime, you know, looked at her in a funny way, and they felt that she was, you know, in this box where that's what that's it. That's what she could do. That was her ceiling. But now she's in AEW. She's a double champ. She is righting the wrongs and the time that she lost when she got injured. Last year. She was supposed to win the New Japan Pro Women's Strong Championship against Willow. Come on now. I'm happy Willow won it. I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy they called the audible and she won it and held the title for as long as she did because that put Willow on the map and that helped AEW's women's division significantly, gain another woman, where you have some credibility there, right? So, happenstance, right? That's what you can call it, where it's unfortunate she got hurt, but at the end of the day, it worked out in the end because now they were able to have a feud, a rivalry. It was good. Obviously, Mercedes beat her, and I think that made sense for the story. Now Willow's doing great things with Chris Statlander. There's multiple women's stories happening on Dynamite and across Collision. You have Sky Blue and Hikaru Shida coming up. You've got Thunder Rosa and Deonna Purrazzo, I believe, 4 happening. And then you have Mercedes Monae and Nyla Rose. What? Dude, a year ago, I would have never said that. And on top of that, I told you 2 weeks ago about how there was only maybe a handful of women's main events on Dynamite, and then this past week, they main evented with Mariah and Willow, obviously for the angle, but thank you, Tony, for doing that, because there should be more women's main events. I know you're in 5 years of your wrestling company, but don't make the same mistakes that WWE did. I hit you with the WWE did. Hit you with that one time, but don't make those same mistakes and don't put the women to the side. And that felt like it last year, and then this past year heated up. And I think that you have to thank Mercedes, you have to thank really all these women for putting in the work and probably going and saying look, let's go. We have a whole women's division that you can cook with. So love to see it, dude. Love to see it. Absolutely. I'll stand on it that ending segment is certainly one of the top 5 endings of a Dynamite in its history. And it's 250 episodes, which is next week. So catch all the action on your local channels. There you go, Tony Khan. There's your plug. I got you. I'll be like all the other content creators. It's just a silly episode today, folks. I'm literally gonna record this, put it out as is. We're gonna throw some photos up. Pew, 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 bop, bop, bop. And then that'll be it for Mouthing Off with Mike this week. I am exhausted. It's been a long week for me. But we're back at it again this week, baby. You grind for what you love, and I'm grinding every damn day to change what it means to talk about wrestling on a podcast, content creator. There's so much negativity. There's so much toxicity. There's so many bad faith takes. There's so much engagement. Listen, I'll tell you if I'm engagement farming there on social media. I'll tell you straight up. I'll tell you. But if I'm not, I'm just generally curious. If I ask a question, it's generally I'm curious. Or maybe I had a couple too many Ripleys. Read between the line there, kids. Too many Ripleys, and I was like, ooh, this would be a good question to ask. I'm curious about this one. Sometimes just the thoughts flow, folks. But Dynamite, starting to heat up, man. 2 weeks in a row. I like it. Tony Khan, keep it up, man. Keep it up. Keep going with the women. I'm enjoying it. Keep cooking. Don't let me down. Don't let us down. Friday Night SmackDown. Great show. Not a lot of people liked it this week. Women highlighted throughout the show. Women were the first 30 minutes. Love me some Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green. I'll do it 1,001 times. She's got a bedazzled neck brace. She could give it an ode to her man's Matt Cardona. I'm just kidding, folks. I'm just kidding. But I love to see it. She was absolutely hysterical this week. You heard me talk about her earlier, Tiffany Stratton. Nia Jax and her are a great duo. Great duo. That's that really could be, an Alexa Bliss, Nia Jax 2.0. That could be, if you want to put it in Shawn Michaels and Diesel, that really, you could really cook with that. And the added tension of the Money in the Bank briefcase with Nia having the match against Bayley at SummerSlam really adds to that, folks. I really enjoy that. I think there's layers to it, like an onion, like an ogre. I can't believe we have another Shrek coming out. What the absolute fuck is going on here? Enough with the sequels, man. Give me some original content. What happened? Originality, folks. But, man, the added tension of Tiffany, Nia, Bailey, right? In this whole dynamic, right? I love it, right? And then you insert Michin, right? The wild card of the whole thing, because she's got beef with Nia. Listen, Bailey's title run fell to the wayside a little bit, and that's not her fault. That is because of the creative, and they were cooking up everything else, right? They're cooking up her challengers, so you're trying to flesh out who is next for Bailey, right? And that as fans, you should perceive that as a good thing, right? Because we know Bailey and Nia is happening at SummerSlam. We know, in fact, Tiffany has the Money in the Bank briefcase. We know that down the line, you're going to have to go with Naomi, Jade, Bianca. You have a whole flourishing women's division on SmackDown, okay? So we got to set those challengers up, folks. We got to set up the stories for her. And I think this summer, they're going to start kind of bringing that title back and elevating it, because SmackDown is dominated by the Bloodline right now, right? Everybody wants to talk about Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu especially. I'm not going to get into that. We'll get into that another date and time, maybe on the nightcap this week. I want to talk a little bit more. I want to focus on the women's stories and things that we're seeing. I like what we're doing with Alba and Isla. I'm glad that they won the tag titles. I do need to see them start getting some more direction. The SmackDown, it's tough, right? 2 hours, but it shouldn't be an excuse, because Shawn Michaels does it in 2 hours and let's just say 10 minutes, right? He gets a 10-minute overrun, usually a 5 to 10 minute overrun on Tuesdays, because I don't think really USA's got anything going on a Tuesday night. So they're like, fuck it, NXT, baby. We love it. People love it. I do love it. Shawn Michaels, Master Chef. So there should be no excuses from SmackDown and the creative on that side, because they did it this week. The first 30 was heavily dominated by the women. So I'm just saying, it goes without saying, right? Women's wrestling, folks, fantastic right now. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. We've got great stories across WWE. We've got great stories happening in AEW, and I even forgot about one of the best stories in AEW as well. You got 3 women's stories. Well, 4 technically if you count them. You got Thunder Rosa and Deonna Purrazzo. You have Willow Nightingale, Chris Statlander, which is fantastic. There's a lot of hate there, obviously. You've got Mariah and Toni Storm, and you've got Mercedes Moné and the DMD, Dr. Britt Baker. So I didn't even touch on that. So I'm going to go backwards here a little bit. Like I said, it's just the ramblings of a wrestling fan, and we'll talk about this man right here at the end. I know it's the women's wrestling episode, but I got to talk about him. We'll cut that up in the final mouth off. The return of the final mouth off. There you have it, folks. That's breaking news to me. Just came out. Just came right out. But yeah, Dr. Britt Baker and Mercedes Moné, that's a money feud for me. What, are you kidding me? That's fantastic. That's fantastic. I've been saying it for months. I thought she was going to screw Mercedes over against Willow to kind of keep that title with Willow and Chris. I was wrong. That's okay. It all worked out in the end because they got a great story going on. And now we've got a great story happening here. We've got the DMD and the CEO. A marquee match. I still think main evented. Main evented at Wembley, but it's tough because you have Swerve and Danielson. So you're like, ooh. I would be okay with a co-main event. Give me a co-main event. That's a co-main event. If you want to put Danielson and Swerve in the main event, that's fine by me. I understand that logic, especially if this is Danielson's last, full-time year. Think about who's retiring this year. Danielson and John Cena. That sucks. The next year is, we're losing Danielson, we're losing John Cena. Edge probably isn't shortly thereafter. AJ Styles is also shortly thereafter, probably within the next couple of years. You got to think about Randy Orton, of course. Get ready, folks. Get ready, my late 90s, early 2000s kids. Get ready, because it's going to hit like a ton of bricks. That's going to be wild to say. But man, Britt Baker, DMD, they're already cooking up. I think the bitch counter between the two of them is already over 30. I think they've called each other a bitch about 15 times each up to this point, which is fucking hysterical. I'm in for it, folks. We had news Natty re-signed WWE, thank God. As much slander as Natty gets on social media, shout out to Natty. She gave Madeline off Mike to follow. And I'm not saying that because she follows me. I'm saying that because I've always thoroughly enjoyed her work and respected her, and I always felt that she should have been a multi-time women's champion. It's a damn shame that she wasn't. Let's be real here, okay? She has trained, with her husband and a few others, but for the most part, she has trained a ton of women's and men's wrestlers from all companies in the dungeon. So if you alone cannot acknowledge that and pay your respects to the time and the dedication to the industry, shame on you, man. Like, that's what I'll say. Like, I get if she's not your favorite or you're not a fan of hers, fine, don't be a fan of hers. But you got to respect and appreciate the fact that she really is out there training some of your favorites across both everywhere and anywhere. So much respect to Natty. I always felt that super underrated, but she's reliable. You know what I mean? Like, you can call her up just for about any feud. She can be a heel. She can be a face. She can do it all. She can go in the ring. I've never felt that she was going to go to AEW, but, like, I could definitely see her doing it to, like, prove to herself and be like, look, forget about it. Like, let me go over here. I'm gonna show him. I'm gonna prove like why I am the boat. But she resigned. I'm glad she did because she gets to train the next generation in the dungeon, and I think without that, maybe some of your favorites are not as good. Just saying. That's a hot take. It's a hot take. But hear me out there, folks. That's it here for Mouthing Off with Mike. I'm gonna get into the final mouth off here. I'll go like 5 minutes. We'll make it like a 35 episode. We'll call it a day for you, ladies and gentlemen. Keep things nice short so we get you back to your lives. I'm going to get in the final mouth off about John Cena. I know it's the women's wrestling episode, but you can't see him. So, welcome to the first in a long time. It's been a while since I've done one of these. The final mouth off with me, with Mike, folks. And I'm wearing the shirt. You see it right here. You can't see him. You got the plaque. You got the towels. You've seen the towels for a year now. You guys know that I am a big John Cena fan. I will always be a John Cena fan. I think what he stands for, never give up. Those are 3 words that when I heard that as a kid growing up, I was like, all right. I can do anything. I'm not going to quit. I will not quit. I will never give up. And that right there, if there's like not 3 words that you need, if you need something to get you up out of the bed, out of your funk, just never give up, man. And that is what he has based his 20+ year career on. The 16-time world champion John Cena has announced that this will be his final rodeo. His final go-round around the 4 sides of the ring. Shout out to my brothers. That was a cheap plug for them. Just trying to see how I can insert things without them being inserted. You know what I mean? They have to catch it. That's if they get to the end of this, right? If they don't see it, they don't get to the end of this, the final mouth off. They won't get that little plug, right? You got to love it. John Cena, a man who knows a thing or two about a championship culture. Wink, wink. John Cena, man. I love John Cena. It's funny. I was sad. Like, let me be real here. I had to go live after the Money in the Bank nightcap, right? We had to do that, and I was like, I was trying to give you the energy, folks, but I was deflated, dude. You come out here, in your childhood here. Like, all I know in wrestling, there's been consistencies, right? John Cena and Randy Orton have been here since I have been watching wrestling. Okay, that's a wild stat to say, right? Like, I'm a late 90s kid. So I was watching, with my dad. I was a kid just in front of the TV, so I have early memories of wrestling in the Attitude Era and things like that. But, for like a guy like me, memories don't really start. Memories kind of fade as the years go on. So, my recollection of wrestling, probably picks up around like 02, 03, 04, right? And John Cena, Randy Orton, Eddie Guerrero, Kurt Angle, Rey Mysterio, like, SmackDown, and then of course, the early 2000s, the mid 2000s, the 2010s, right? John Cena, Randy Orton, The Undertaker for a while, right? So John Cena, man, he means a lot, and there was a time there where I was, John Cena sucks, I was a part of that chant, but then I got over it, I became a John Cena guy again, and I'll always be a John Cena guy. From the Cena sucks to the Cena rocks, he's an absolute legend, a gift to pro wrestling. There will never be another John Cena. I will put him, if you want to know my Mount Rushmore of wrestling, John Cena is on that. Steve Austin is on that. The Rock is on that. I'm not going to tell you the fourth one. I'll tell you the fourth one at a later date and time. But I'll give you three. I think those three are Mount Rushmore of pro wrestling. The fourth one, I don't know if I want to tell you guys. I'll save it for a rainy day. We'll save it for a rainy day. We'll get into that discussion. I'll have a whole video maybe. Maybe I got to start changing the content here. I'm mouthing off with Mike. There's going to be a change coming. A change is coming. I'm doing nightly fucking recaps, right? So there's no point in me coming on here and talking about the weekly show, right? This week I wanted to talk a little bit more about women's wrestling. I think I think this week in pro wrestling, the women's wrestling outshined anything wrestling wise. Unfortunately, I can't watch TNA, man. I don't have the time. I need a day off. I love TNA. I'll catch it on social media. I'll watch it. I won't cover it. I'm not going to be a fake TNA fan. I am an admirer. I will call myself an admirer. I love what they're doing down there. And I love the partnership with NXT. But change is coming to Mouthing Off with Mike. And change is a good thing. Change is scary. But change will be coming. Haven't decided what the change is going to be. I'll think about it. But I do know one thing. I want to thank you guys for watching, for listening if you're on the audio side. Listen to the audio side. This might be a better audio episode, to be honest. Should have probably said that in the beginning. That's Mouthing Off with Mike, ladies and gentlemen. I got a lot of things coming up in the next couple weeks. We got an IWC tag team promo battle. Not sure how that's going to work. Don't know how the inner workings and how the rules are going to work. It's me. It's Michael Davis. It's the Boom Boys. Mike and Mike. Main Event Mikes. Whatever you want to call us. We're going up against some of the Two Heads Crybabies. It'll be interesting. I expect to win. Simple as that. And then after that, shortly thereafter, we're getting right back into 3-count trivia with 4 sides of the ring. Oh, man. 3-count trivia. It is intense. It is awesome. I recommend, if you are a content creator, you're watching this, I recommend you get into 3-count trivia. This year might be the biggest one yet. They did it last year, first year. This one might be the biggest one yet. I'm telling you, I'm trying to get everybody in this. I don't care. Hey, if I don't win, I don't win, but I want to have a hell of a tournament. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to have as many people as they're willing to have. So if you're a content creator, wrestling content creator, I want to specify that. Don't be sitting here making target content creator videos and thinking you're going to come in 3-count trivia and do some wrestling trivia. Just saying. Wrestling content creators. Hit up 4 sides of the ring. 4 3-count trivia. We know that that's coming up. Coming up around SummerSlam, the signups are going to take place with the tournament shortly thereafter. So make sure you follow them. All right. Make sure you get your team submitted. You got to be a team of 2. Team of 2. Team of 2. Last year, there was a lot of controversy surrounding it. I was told that Mike and me, we were robbed. I was told this. We'll see what happens. Current champions, the reigning and soon-to-be defending champions, all those boys over at Championship Culture, my man Brandon, my man Hugh, part of the wrestling realm, they are the current reigning defending champions. And I got to see the belts WrestleMania weekend. So I'm going to tell you right now, that's a beautiful belt that they got made. And 3-count trivia is an awesome thing, and I'm sure that in the years to come, this will be the big thing. This will be the big tournament of the summer for all those wrestling content creators. I have no doubt in my mind we might see some big names in there one of these days competing for that belt. Time will tell, folks. Time will tell. Shout out to John Cena. If I had to give you a top 5 on who I'd like to see him face right now in the WWE, it's tough, but I'm gonna give him to you. Braun Breaker, Ilya Dragunov. Give me a Karrion Kross. I know you guys are not gonna like that one. Give me Karrion Kross. I'm a Karrion Kross guy. I got his picture hanging up over behind me somewhere. It's somewhere up there. I'm not moving the camera. Give me a Karrion Kross. I think they do magic with each other on the mic. I know John Cena's the GOAT on the mic, but Karrion Kross, he's got great mic work, and I think promos between them would be fun. I'm gonna say it. I'm going to say it. Give me that CM Punk one more time. Give me that CM Punk one more time. Give me that Seth Rollins again. Give me that Damian Priest. Give me that Gunther. Give me a Sheamus. My fantasy booking, give me John Cena winning the Intercontinental Championship for the first time during his retirement. Sheamus challenge him for that title, just like when Sheamus challenged Cena for the WWE Championship and Sheamus beat him to win his first title. Give me Sheamus beating Cena for the IC title so that he captures the only gold that's eluded him. Mwah! Chef's kiss. Let me cook, ladies and gentlemen. This has been Mouthing Off with Mike. I'm your host, Mike. Catch me on the Monday Night Raw nightcap tomorrow night after Raw on Boom Broadcasting. Make sure you subscribe to me. When I hit 200 subs, I'm going to do the Dirty Dom Stash. Unless it's after July 31st, then you played yourself. Subscribe to Boom Broadcasting. 500 subscriber giveaway coming for College Football 25. I'm out of here. Mouthing Off with Mike. Peace.
Mouthing off with Mike.